Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Electric Underground podcast. This one is a very special one, a very long time in the making, and I'm very excited to have today's guests, Moglar and Jaimers. Welcome to the episode, my dudes.
Hey.
Hey. How is it going? It's been a while, yeah.
It has been a while. And the reason why I wanted to bring you two on, of course, the main topic that we'll get to a little bit later on is Moglar's recent world record score in Ketsui. And this is pretty unprecedented stuff, at least in recent memory for me. And I want to give context to this for the listeners out there. So when I first joined the shmup world around 2018 or so, I remember having a conversation with Plasmo and other Western players and basically just saying, man, wouldn't it be cool if someone from the West was actually able to break one of these Japanese world records in, the popular cave shmups? And the kind of idea was like, yeah, sure. I remember Eaglet even said when we were talking about Battle Gorega, he's like, I don't even know where some of these points are coming from with the world record scores in Gorega. So it seemed like, it just wasn't going to happen anytime soon. But I said to Plasmo, I said, I bet at some point some random guy, some kid from who knows where in the West is just going to be insane and it's going to pick up the genre and beat one of these scores. I need to find the message somewhere on Discord. I was reminding Plasma about that. And lo and behold, such a thing happened. Moglar appeared, blew all our minds even early on, and then from there just kept destroying Ketsui to the point where he got the world record scores. So it's pretty monumentous achievement, I would say. One of the most impressive gaming achievements I've ever seen in my life. So I'm really excited to have him on the show. And I also decided to bring Jaimers on because Jaimers is a much better Ketsui player than I am, and I wanted to sort of fill out the knowledge base because Jaimers himself, of course, an amazing player. And also, from what I understand, Ketsui is Jaimers' favorite shmup, isn't that right?
It's pretty high up there, yeah, I'd say.
So I thought it'd be great to have both of you on the show to discuss not only Moglar's world record score, but also Ketsui in depth, because this game is just getting more and more into my blood. I've been playing it a lot lately, and I think, it's one of my favorites, absolutely, and you can't talk about it enough. So I thought we'd begin the episode by getting a little bit of update on how you all have been doing, what you all been up to in shmupping land, because it has been a long time. Moglar, we know, has been destroying Ketsui, but outside of just Ketsui, Moglar, have you been playing any other shmups or any other sort of games been on your mind?
No, not really any other shmups.
And how about you, Jaimers?
Yeah, you know me. Always looking for some cool shit to play, cool shit to showcase, and it's having a good time. And there's always like something or another that's probably I'm just playing or just looking into something cool I can do for the channel, I guess. So for me, it's basically the same as always.
Have there been any standout shmups? Because what I love about your channel is whenever I look for is there any cool new shmups coming around? Especially smaller, like indie ones. I always look at your channel because it's always a great source for that. Has there been any recent releases that have stood out to you as like more people need to pay attention to this?
Yeah, there's like so many like new things coming out nowadays. It's like really hard to like keep up with it. So there's quite a bunch of games I still need to do, still want to do. I haven't like, gotten around to it, but yeah, there are some really cool ones coming out.
One that kind of caught my eye, and I think you've been playing it, is that Chinese Toho, Devil and Blue something or other, that has like the really good graphics. Have you been putting a lot of time into that at all?
I think that's like Blue Devil in the Belvedere or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's probably like the prettiest like Toho fan game I've seen. The gameplay is pretty solid as well. That's like Hypos, which it's always a good time.
Oh, it's cool.
Always a good time.
Ground enemies anywhere? That's like the biggest Toho fan game. Added ground enemy, maybe.
Nah, that's not here. No, not this time. I played it for like a little bit. The game has like a bunch of like big crazy achievements. Like there's one for like an LNN, for like a lunatic no miss no bomb.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's cool. And what's the percentage on the achievement? Like 0.001% or something? As far as like the player base?
It's something like 1% or 2%, yeah.
I actually didn't like achievements for a long time because I thought they were kind of a waste of time until I realized that they give you that little percentage of how many other players have gotten the achievement. And from that point, I was like, oh, okay, I like these now because whenever I get an achievement in a shmup, it makes me feel like, oh, cool, especially when it's like sub 1% or 2%, 3% of the players get the achievement. So I'm kind of growing fond of that, actually.
I've never had
Yeah,
any
it's
interest
cool
in
whenever they do that. Game also has like achievements for like scoring as well, which is interesting. So it has like a balance of both, like survival and scoring. And the score requirement is pretty high as well. It's pretty hard to get that one.
And so, speaking of the library of shmups, one of the things that I definitely want to get both of your opinions on is when it comes to Ketsui, even though it is a cave game and cave games all have very similar sort of designs and they're a family of games, but to me it always feels like Ketsui sort of stands out among other cave games. And so I thought it'd be fun to get your guys' thoughts on what do you think are the most distinctive elements of Ketsui that are very, very particular to that game that you're not going to find even among its cave brethren.
I don't know if it would really stand out too much to me. I think most cave games are mostly like they stand out due to being like a different combination of like score mechanics that cave will sometimes use multiple times.
Right.
There's the lock on shot. It's
That's huge.
Yeah, I think Futari Abnormal Palm kind of has a lock on shot as well. But it's pretty unique still.
It's very different in that game, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty different, It was the first cave game to use like the multiplier cash in, cash out thing, which also got brought
really?
back. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And it got brought back for like a Futari Maniac and God mode and whatnot, but it's not used too often. And I think the patterns in the game, a lot of people seem to agree are kind of strange sometimes.
Yes, hell yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I really like. And I also like Pro Gear does it as well, I think, and I really like that in both games.
I definitely agree there. A lot of those patterns really stand out.
I guess the multiple loop system as well. But I mean
hell yeah.
most players don't get to either of them, but
but they do exist. They're definitely there.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk about the loops later on because I do want to get in depth on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that stands out to you, Jaimers, about Ketsui versus its shmup brethren?
Yeah, I'd definitely say like with the lock-on system, like quite unique for this game, I think. It's also like a very fun thing as well. Just go up to an enemy, just close up, and then they like the tick 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 tick, get all the locks on it.
That sound effect is notorious.
That's like it's very satisfying. It's very fun to play, or fun to do. And yeah, the game also has like some pretty unique patterns. I'd say that makes it kind of stand out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like the curving things on the C2 boss, for example, like on the walls. That's pretty unique.
Yes.
And for cave.
Speaking about the lock-on system, and especially playing Panzer, I sort of had to get a little bit more in depth with the lock-on system in certain parts. Is that what's crazy about it that you don't really see? Like if you play Dononpachi, for example, you can't do this. Where if you want to like clear out a bunch of popcorn, but you also want to kill a big enemy at the same time, in Dononpachi, unless you have a huge wide shot, maybe you can do it that way. But in Ketsui, what's really cool is you can lock on to a larger enemy and then sort of slide over to the left side of the screen and use the lock on to sort of take out the popcorn. You can like bend your shot around the screen with the lock on. And I think it really changes the way you can route and the way you can do different things in the game, even with Panzer, as opposed to if you're playing a narrow shot type in Dononpachi. The lock on system, I think, is really innovative. And I don't know, has any other shmup had something even close to that that I can think of?
Before that time, I don't think so. It got copied a lot, of course, after the game came out. But I think before that, I'm not sure. No, not in the same style. There's
that
like,
type of lock shot.
There's like Sokyo Garantai that has like a different kind of lock shot, but it's
like Gray
like a cone that like targets things. It's not the same thing.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very different type of lock shot. Yeah.
I wonder where they got the inspiration. Is there any sort of notes on that where they might have been inspired to come up with that?
If
I'm
so,
not
I don't know.
sure. No.
Maybe it
They're keeping
exists,
it
but
secret.
we don't have it on us right now.
And speaking of another thing about Ketsui that comes up a lot whenever I discuss Ketsui, whenever I have videos about Ketsui on the channel, is a lot of people talk about, man, wouldn't it be great if there was a sequel to Ketsui? Why didn't Cave make a sequel to Ketsui? And I don't think that's going to happen anytime, but what would you guys say, in your experience, is the closest game to sort of a sequel or follow-up to Ketsui? Or what game, if you just want something really close to Ketsui or as close as possible, what game would that be?
Well, I think the obvious answer here would be Ketsui DX.
Yes, very
The
true.
mobile phone. It's a very similar game, spiritual successor. Yeah, I have not played it myself yet, though. Also, there's obviously the Daifukutsu Black Label range.
Yeah, Ketsupachi.
So that,
Oh, yeah.
Battle Traverse has some similarities for sure, but
Oh,
yeah. It feels pretty different, but it has a lot of mechanical similarities, so I don't know what to think of that.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of going for like a horizontal Ketsui type thing with that. Even the patterns kind of look like Ketsui patterns.
It has if you're closer to enemies, you get a higher multiplier, but if that doesn't like stick into the lock-on shot. And there's multiplier management again, like in Ketsui with cashing and cashing out. But I played it again recently. It doesn't feel too similar. It just has some mechanical similarities.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the ones I would say. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one.
Jaimers,
what do you think,
Jaimers
Jaimers?
might know some more.
Yeah, I was going to say Beltverse as well. I guess like before, like way back, I think the closest thing to Ketsui we had was like this doujin game called like X Extra. It's like a very obscure little doujin shmup. I'm not sure if that's really.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was pretty nice. It was pretty nice, yeah. I'm not sure if it was exactly like Ketsui. It's mostly had like the point blank mechanic. You had like the ×5 when you get close to an enemy, and then got lower, like farther away you got from an enemy. That was like the closest thing we had to Ketsui back then. I think I have a video of that on my channel. It's fairly obscure. It's very old as well.
I think I might vaguely remember it.
One game that kind of, I'm not saying it's like directly like Ketsui, but I always kind of feel like might be in a similar ballpark is Crimson Clover. Some aspects of that game kind of remind me a little bit of Ketsui. The lock-on system is different, but there's still a lock-on system, and kind of, it feels like the scoring isn't, I mean, it's different, but it's not totally different from Ketsui. The way you kind of have to do, you kill it with the shot, and then you use the lock for the multiplier and all that sort of stuff. But I might be out in left field here. What do you guys think of that? Do you feel like there's a similarity between Crimson Clover and Ketsui?
There is the multiplier timer thing, but I think it's more similar to S-Braid than Ketsui. Because you normally take out, you can do it on both small or large enemies, but you usually take out larger enemies to start the multiplier, and the multiplier can also like reach very high numbers and last for a very long amount of time. Where Ketsui is, they make sure you can't really keep it for too long generally.
Right. Yeah. That's actually great. You brought up S-Braid, because that was going to be another one that I was thinking of maybe putting in here, where it's like the scoring system. Again, I'm not really expert on both the scoring systems, but it does feel like a little bit of a predecessor to Ketsui, at least with the chips and everything.
I agree.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Mainly the multiplier system in S-Braid, and then Ketsui's system where you start a timer and then can lock kill things. Those are kind of similar.
Yeah, like in the Fever mode.
Pretty similar.
You get like more cubes to the Fever mode. That like makes it easier to like chain. I think that's kind of a bit similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Because I'm sure a lot of people ask for this. I'm like, those are the best things I could.
Like from before.
Is there some random Toho game, Jaimers, that like has a lock-on mechanic or something?
Probably.
The Belvedere has one.
Oh, really?
There you go. Full circle.
Yeah, there's a bunch of shots I've seen that have like the Ketsui lock on, but they're not like directly in like a Ketsui game. But there are a bunch of shots. It got copied a lot. The lock on, you can see it like sometimes all over the place. There's like a random shot type that uses it.
Like we said, even with the arrange in DFK, right? The Ketsupachi arrange, that the game feels like a kind of fun little hybrid between Ketsui and DFK. That's an arrange I actually really enjoy.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, no,
80% of the score comes from Doom Milk. Very tragic.
Whoops. So, other aspects of Ketsui that have been brought up before that I wanted to discuss a little bit because I thought that most players just agreed Ketsui visually is really excellent looking and it's one of my favorite looking shmups of all time. But I remember on Discord I got into a discussion where people were saying, "No, I don't like the way Ketsui looks. I don't like its graphical style." I was like, okay, well, let me think. Let me see what other people think. It might just be me. Personally, I love the graphical stylings of Ketsui and the way it looks. And I guess it's not technically pixel art, but I kind of, it's whatever you call it, bit art of some kind. And I really enjoy it. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. What do you think of the graphical styling of Ketsui, especially compared to other cave shmups?
Yeah, DOJ onwards, a lot of people feel pretty strongly about the graphics. A lot of people do not like it much at all. But I like it. I think it looks pretty good. Some of the pixel art from the earlier games before DOJ does look really incredible, though. I definitely cannot disagree with that. I think even afterwards, cave games look quite good, in my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I was wondering too, like what exactly. I guess it's like one of those things where a lot of people dislike stuff like Donkey Kong Country because it's pre-rendered or whatever.
Yeah.
I personally love Donkey Kong Country's visuals, and so maybe that's where the divide is coming from. Where I'm not a huge purist when it comes to pixel art. Oh, it needs to be just so. I don't mind like pre-rendered sort of stuff, as long as it fits in and doesn't look strange and bizarre. I think it works, and so
Yeah,
I do like a
I
lot of
think so
the
too.
graphical stylings of Ketsui, and I think a lot of the ship models and stuff are really intricate and really awesome looking.
Yeah, probably like DDP and S-Blade, I guess, probably have the best pixel art, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I do like how Ketsui looks, and I do like how we're like teaming and like the atmosphere it gives.
absolutely. And the backgrounds of the game, I also think, are pretty underrated.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Esperade especially looks really incredible to me. It's probably the best looking cave game in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I always felt like Esperade is like really heavily inspired by like anime from the 90s, like Akira and everything. It seems kind of an obvious comparison to me, but maybe I'm just reading into that. But I really love the way that game looks. One of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, it does kind of like feel like a world, like where people like live in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, really detailed. One thing I like about Ketsui's environments is I like how they sort of flow into one another between the stages
Right.
rather than being this real distinctive, okay, now we're at the mall, now we're at the bay, now we're in this terminal. I do like how it flows into one another and it's like you're attacking a stretch of land, right? Rather than just, save stating between different locations or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that is a little bit underrated.
Yeah, it not having like the typical stage end screen, it just makes it flow better. Very cool.
I'm a huge fan of that. And what's funny is when you play, like when you stream Ketsui, one of the hardest things for me when I stream it is I'm trying to answer questions to people in the chat, but the stage transitions are so short. You're like, yeah, or like, cool.
A while ago, I did look at my chat during Ketsui, but for like the last 2 years, I just don't have the chat like visible to me when I play the game because I'm just like, why bother?
I definitely know what you mean there. I did that early on when I was streaming, and I think if you're trying to break a world record, I agree with that strategy.
Well, I also just don't really want to pause. It feels
Exactly.
kind of weird.
And I can't remember the last time Jaimers has streamed. It feels like it's been a while, but maybe I'm not on Twitch enough.
Yeah, I need to stream more. I know. it's hard to like find like long stretches of time where you can like
Yeah.
do like a long stream.
Was the last time you streamed when you were doing Dodonpachi? Was that like the last time you were doing a lot of streaming?
No.
Didn't stream.
Okay.
Last time I see was did some attempts on X Multiply.
Oh, okay.
I think there wasn't like two. I think it was pretty fairly recent. But yeah, they did like the winning one. Then the time I forgot to press like, do you really want to start the stream? And that was
That's great.
Yeah, I've had that recently with like well, I don't know if I'm gonna play for a long time, so I'm just not gonna stream because I don't want to like disappoint people or something. Not that it really matters at all, but whenever I actually do stream, I just end up playing for a really long time. So
I know. I fall into that
I
too.
know,
Like
yeah.
I've noticed this where like if I'm trying to practice Ketsui now, if I sit down and stream, it's going to be 2 hours. What happens is like the first hour, maybe a few people come in, and then once you're an hour in, enough people have seen, oh, Mark's streaming, I'll hop in. Then you feel obligated to keep going. Like, okay, everyone's here. I got to keep it rolling here. So yeah, all my streams end up being about at minimum 2 hours. So I have that exact same thing where sometimes I just like, all right, I won't stream because I'm going to practice for half an hour and then I got to move on.
usually I don't care about the viewer count too much, but yeah, I don't want to disappoint people if I like end stream instantly. But also, I think I get when I stream, I do full attempts more, and when I'm not doing streaming, I just end up like, 2-4 sounds kind of fun right now. 2-5 sounds kind of fun. And I never do full runs when I mostly need to just do full runs right now because I'm pretty well practiced on everything.
Yeah, and that's always
And it's more fun
when you're broadcasting. That always feels like the audience like that the most. Because the other day, I practiced 1-5 for like 50 minutes, just 1-5 at like specific sections. You almost feel like you're beating around your viewers a little bit. It's like, oh no, you're gonna watch me save state this 40 second stretch of game for 20 minutes. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, I know. I definitely know what you mean. They love the full runs, and so I always feel obligated after a bit of that. Like, all right, everyone, full run time, just for the fans.
I don't really like streaming practice too much. If I stream like a little bit of practice in like a problem spot during a stream, I think that's fine. But I don't want to just like do an entire practice stream. I just think it's kind of pointless to stream it personally.
Yeah,
Right.
I think practice only really works if you have like voice enabled at the time.
Oh, definitely.
That
I
the
could-
people actually like understand what you're like trying to do.
Right.
You can still like type in chat to like mention what you're doing and like what you're having a problem with, what you're trying to like, how you're trying to fix it.
Well, I bet with your streaming, especially Moglar, where you're getting so optimized and you're getting real deep into the game now, it could be, I'm imagining like you're trying to get 3 more chips out of a section or something,
Yeah.
and like 98% of your viewers are like, bro, you're doing great. Why are you practicing this section? You're like, no, I'm trying to get 3 more chips here, damn it.
No, usually if I practice something like midstream, it's because like I fucked it up a couple times in runs and I'm like, okay, I need to fix this and not die again.
Right, yeah. Well, awesome. So that was great. Get your sort of experience with streaming. Another thing
Yeah.
that when I was talking on Discord about Ketsui that I think is a little bit more unanimous is people's thoughts on the soundtrack, because everyone
yeah.
I've talked to all seem to agree that the soundtrack absolutely slaps. But
Mhm.
again, that I just don't want to be, just coming from my perspective. I think it's badass, one of my favorite soundtracks.
Yeah, I mean,
How would you guys kind of place it in the cave soundtrack?
you could call me biased maybe if you want, but yeah, I think it's probably one of or maybe my favorite Ketui soundtrack because I think it has very good consistency in being really good. Pretty much every track in
is
the game
true.
is really good, whereas like a lot of soundtracks probably have at least like a couple weaker tracks. I mean, I haven't listened to it much at all recently, but I think I remember like really, really liking Espooita 2's soundtrack as well. So that might be
Oh,
some
yeah,
competition. I think that soundtrack's amazing.
What do you think, Jaimers?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites, I'd say as well. Especially like the Stage 5 team. Like that
Oh, yeah.
team. Like that team is like so thematic. It sets the tone so well. But like also if you like know the story, it's like fits perfectly with the story. Like a bit more somber tone of like how you're getting near to like the end of your mission. And I think that's very, very cool in that sense as well. So yeah, it's always been pretty legendary.
I also like to imagine the notes that Cave gives the composer. It's like, okay, here's how long we need the songs to be, and he's looking at the notes. Like stage 1, okay, a minute or whatever it is. Stage 2, all right, 2 minutes. He looks at stage 5, he's like, you need like a 5-minute song or something, because the stage is so freaking long. I bet they had to do a lot more work on the song, just pure lengthwise.
I think it's like 3 minutes long and it loops or something.
Oh, it does loop. Okay, he's like, no, I'm not writing you a 5-minute song here.
No.
Well, I would say in my favorites of the Cave soundtracks, Ketui's definitely up there, and probably my favorite track on it is stage 4. I think it's called like Battle Line or Front Line, something like that. That one, especially when you get the Xbox Vert arrange, or you can get it in the PS4 version, that arrange absolutely slaps, and you'll see it in so many of my videos. Like if I want to have a hype intro to a video, I'm like, Ketsui stage 4 arrange, let's do this. I just love that tune. That's definitely my favorite. So we talked about the visuals, we talked about the soundtrack. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty here, because this is something that I've always been trying to understand, but until you, I think, really get into scoring a game, it's hard to know all the ins and outs of the scoring system. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the scoring system of Ketsui. Especially, what do you think are the strongest aspects of it, and what do you think are kind of the weakest aspects? Because it's hard for me to kind of tell at this stage.
I don't know. It's hard for me to like decide what are like the weaker aspects and stronger aspects, because like all the aspects of the scoring add more layers to the game, make it harder to optimize, more depth, Yeah, so I appreciate all of the scoring mechanics a lot, really. Maybe Jaimers has some more insight.
Not sure if there's any particular part of it that I'd say is like not good. I think they all like pretty like flow well into each other.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to say something, then maybe like the anti-locking is maybe not very approachable.
Is that? Oh yeah, the empty locking for sure.
Exactly, anti-locking takes some time to get down for sure.
Maybe this would be a sort of a better way to think about it, where I love Dodonpachi's scoring system, for example. It's one of my favorites, mostly because it's so straightforward. It's like, chain, don't die. Okay, there you go. And I think Ketsui's a nice sort of middle ground there, where it's a little bit more in-depth than something like that, but not overly complicated to where it's kind of ridiculous. For me, like with Dodonpachi, the one aspect of that game's scoring system that always kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way are the bees, because they're just so dominant over what your routes end up being, because you don't have as much leeway, because the bees kind of force you, okay, you need to move here, you need to move there. It's very sort of strict like that. And then in DOJ, they kind of rectified that a bit by adding hypers. Is there anything like that in Ketsui's scoring system, where it kind of like pushes you a little bit more than you'd want it, or you'd want a little bit more flexibility? Or is it like perfectly balanced to flexibility, but also strict enough to be interesting?
Yeah, I wouldn't really say any that's bad. Like you just said, and the game is probably more flexible than most cave games, and it's also it's very in depth and difficult strats and shit. Also, about it being like complicated, I think Ketsui probably is like a pretty complicated game overall, but its mechanics aren't too bad to get down. You can get them down decently. Stuff like DFK have like super weird mechanics just to be able to get any score at all. But then once you figure that out, from like what I've seen, probably like very simple after that.
I guess with Ketsui, it's maybe a bit hard to tell like what the most optimal strat is. I guess the optimal way to get the most points.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because all enemies have like hidden values, and like cashing any multiplier at that point can be slightly worse than if you do it like in a later point or somewhere else. Or yeah, it can be complicated to figure that out. You have to be like a lot of math if you don't watch some other videos.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time on calculator in this game.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, Moglar. So, in order to get such a high score in the game, I'm assuming you had to sit down and like literally like you said, map out, all right, this enemy's worth this many points, this multiplier here, so I need to route it like this. And is that how you figured your routing?
I don't know if I'd say it's really how I figured out my routing. Replays can help, and sometimes like I'd have a general idea of like knowing the values, like, oh, is this enemy good? Is this good? And I was like, oh, well, maybe I could block kill this enemy, which isn't normally done, but it could give me a little more score. I mean, most of the calculator's stuff is just like curiosity about like how much score I could get from something, which could determine like if I want to actually use the strat or not, right? So I'd say it's like, kind of important. Or just like other interesting things, like how much does like no missing the final bosses give compared to like one missing? It's like 25 mil. I've done a lot of different math like that. Yeah,
it's not really as obvious as to what points like enemies give. Like there's like some big enemies in stage 5 that give like no points at all, and then
yeah, that's true.
The tiny clones to give like.
Oh yeah, they have like
times as much as everything else.
They have like the high. Yeah, the tiny clones have like the highest normal enemy value in the game, pretty much.
They have like second phase as well, right? Like enemies have like multiple phases as well, and like the first phase can be like worthless, and the second phase is worth a lot. Like that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so stuff like the boats in stage 3, right? Or the battleships. Like the first form is like really bad value for a large enemy, and then the second one is like pretty decent. So it's like you usually want to kill the first form with shot and then the second with lock.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a great example of like knowing the data of the game would pretty heavily influence your routing, because just going off of just basic sort of logic, you're like, all right, let's blow up the first phase, that ought to do it. Like that's what I would do. So yeah, like stuff like that.
You do eventually get like understandings of like what enemies give what, and then you can like use logic to work your way around stuff. Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to get more in depth just for people to understand a little bit more about the empty locking mechanic or exploit or whatever you'd call it, because I think that is a pretty interesting aspect of the scoring system. And I just want to get clarification. Is that intended or was that unintended, the ability to empty lock the enemy?
So I heard from Arasaka, apparently the empty locking is intentional, or was at least left in intentionally. But that probably only means like the large enemy empty locks, not Zako empty locks. They probably didn't have that figured out back then.
Oh, okay. So they figured like, for example, an empty lock even I can hit because it's so huge. Is that the stage 1 mid boss type empty lock, that big ship there? Like those big
like
empty locks.
The ones after the first power up carrier.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
It's not really a mid boss.
It's not a mid boss. I was like, I'm hoping an empty lock in a mid boss. That'd be horrible.
Oh no, I was just saying. So Cave was aware the bigger enemies are like, all right, yeah, they could do this for a little extra points, but they didn't really fully understand. Wait a minute here, they start empty locking popcorn. This could get wild.
I believe that's probably how it went. Yeah, don't take my word for fact or anything, but yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think it's probably like started as like unintended, like something that in hindsight they found out. But it is interesting to notice that that label, Ketsui Dead label, does mention like anti-locking in the tutorials, as well as the manual booklet you get with the Xbox 360 port. The manual booklet, there's also like a section in that about anti-locking, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And that's what
makes really cool.
My quick little soapbox here. Is that what makes shmups such a badass genre? Because every other genre of game, thinking speedrunning, Super Mario 64, Nintendo would never put like, oh, if you backwards long jump, you can get through, you can get through the stairs early. But shmups, because of the close connection between the competitive side of the playing and the developers, they seem to have like really close connections. The player's like, yeah, you can empty lock, and the devs are like, cool, all right, we'll just jot that down for the players to know. I love that sort of stuff. So yeah, the fact that Cave is like, yeah, you can empty lock. I think that's really cool.
Wasn't like I thought there was something like in Smash Bros. Melee, like wave dashing or something like that was actually left in intentionally.
Yes, but I think what happened there with wave dashing
They
is
might not have realized the power of it. I think is
exactly.
What I heard.
I think
But
what ended up happening is that, you know, especially since it was made in such a short amount of time, like Smash Bros. Melee was made very quickly, is they're probably QA testing or whatever, and they're like, yo, check this out. And they're like, oh, that's kind of a fun little nifty feature, having no idea what it would what it would entail later on. So
yeah.
and then of course the proof is in the pudding because Nintendo later on was like, no, hell no. And they removed it from the rest of the series. So
yeah. Yeah,
so, but,
I think some newer speedruns also kind of sometimes have that.
That is true. I think if you get like the
Newer,
smaller
like,
indie games, yeah, they're way more on board with this stuff.
Probably not AAA games, unless they're just too lazy to patch glitches or something.
Right. So what do you think about empty locking, Jaimers? Because I thought, and I could be wrong here, that your replays don't use it all that much, but I could be wrong here.
No, Zako.
No, I only did like, guess the easy ones, or like the big enemies that have like the very long explosions. Like that's pretty trivial to like do the empty locking
Right,
on.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure how I personally feel about the other stuff. I think it's pretty hard to like do on like a gamepad. Like maybe.
Oh, I
maybe
bet.
If you're using your thumb, it's probably kind of annoying. If you put like,
maybe, yeah.
if you switched to like a typical like keyboard or arcade style and playing on a controller, which you could probably do, it might be okay. You might be able to do it with your thumb though. You have to like hit them both at the same time, and then just lift up like the back part of your thumb and then put it down. That'd probably be fine actually. It might.
Or what you could do, Jaimers, is you could map an extra button to like your shoulder specifically for empty locking. So you like you use your shoulder input for the empty lock, maybe. That way you don't have to use the thumb straining.
There's a few ideas there. Could probably work.
Yeah, there's obviously some funny stories about like the empty locking. Like there's like that one guy on like the forum that said he got like RSE from doing Ketsui empty locking. Like a repetitive stress in them.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fairly funny. But yeah, it's pretty hard to like get like a pretty good opinion upon it if you haven't like tried it a lot yet.
It takes some time to beat in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a more strict input, right? Isn't that the kind of thing about it that's interesting, is that it's not necessarily just about strategy. It's also you need to hit that input, or what do you think, Moglar?
Yeah, it takes some time to get the input down for sure. And I think you have to have hopefully a decent understanding of like how you'd get a good E-lock. Like I think at first I tried empty locking first, like super early on, but I didn't understand it at all. I don't think I was getting much of anywhere with it for a bit, but then I started to figure it out a bit more later on. I actually started using Zako empty locking very early on, like before I ever got to Omote for sure. Which I was a noob, so getting to Omote took a lot longer than it would for some people. But
well, relatively speaking, yes. But I think just your ability as a newer player. I mean, watching you get Emote and then Aura was like, holy shit, this guy is cooking. I mean, it seemed like no time at all.
It took like 150 to 200 hours to get to Omote for my first time though, so because I was not very good at it back then.
It'd probably take me more than that now to get Emote. I'm not kidding.
No. To get to Omote, not to beat it.
Oh, to get to Emote. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I thought you meant clearing Emote.
I had some decent scoring though. I had 200 mil. If I missed the loop, which was obviously extremely hard for me at the time, and I would have had like 200 mil loop one routes, so barely. But
yes, and I do want to talk about the loops because this is fascinating. But I did want to weigh in on my thoughts on empty locking because, personally speaking, I love the idea of empty locking. I kind of wish shmups had more shit like this, where it breaks the, like if Dodonpachi had something like this, it'd be badass. Where it breaks the sort of traditional routing that the game's intended, But in order to do that, you need to hit these like ridiculous inputs. I love that sort of stuff, and so I'm a big fan of it. And when I get playing Ketsui for score, I'm gonna be right on board with empty locking and trying to hit all those. Because I think that's the one thing in gaming that I'm kind of good at is like hitting hard inputs and combos and all that sort of shit. So I'm actually really excited to try it out. So I'm a big fan.
You should start scoring more. But yeah, personally, I think empty locking is the game is much better for empty locking. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. Really, I think it just makes it's another layer on the game, like I said, with other scoring mechanics, and it's also it's the most difficult part to optimize out of all the scoring because you can just empty lock. Like, there's so many opportunities to get more chips from empty locking, and it's like it's too hard to get all of them. So there's always more room to improve on it, pretty much. And it's very, very fun and very satisfying to pull off well.
And would you say that it sort of breaks in certain sections? Again, it's hard for me to know because I don't know the score routing all that well, but it does seem like, just from what I know when I watch your record score and your replays, that you're sort of breaking certain sections that I don't think Cave was quite prepared for you to be able to do.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, really. With breaking sections with empty locking, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I mean like the chain routing, like you're breaking sort of what they intended you to do to route your chains.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, there's a lot of intended routes to be able to chain. It's very like beginner friendly, I think, but there's always like different ways to do it. Like, you'll notice with Ketsui stage design, like a lot of the time they'll give like a ground Zako, usually tanks, but also like some boats in stage 3. You'll have the tanks at the bottom of the screen. They always put them often put them like really low on the screen so you can start the timer and start locking stuff for 5s. I thought that was really, really cool design.
Oh, and so empty locking doesn't really interrupt that at all? Like, what I'm imagining is, let's say you watched a replay and one player, and they're both like pretty well optimized, but one player is ignoring empty locking, and then the other player is exploiting empty locking. I would assume that like their routes throughout the stage would start to diverge because the empty locking person's finding more opportunities to squeeze out some score.
Yeah, that should happen, but I wouldn't say that empty locking, it doesn't really create more timer opportunities or chaining opportunities in general. It doesn't really create more opportunities, but a higher scoring player would go out of use different routes to score more. Yeah.
Okay, so that is interesting.
The closest thing that I guess is that you're more allowed to like shot kill bigger enemies without like taking the timer into them, because you can just get all the chips from them like no matter what, as long as you can get a good e-lock.
Yes, exactly.
So that's like the biggest like route breaking thing, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it does change some things, I guess. But also that type of e-locking is the one they knew about. So.
And we were talking earlier about the loops, and I really want to talk about this because the looping system in Ketui is very interesting. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the loops and the loop requirements?
Should I just talk about the loops first, maybe, and then the requirements? Like,
yes,
very different, separate things. I think the cool thing with Ketsui loops is that it's just so different. Well, it could backfire. It could be either a very good thing or a very bad thing, depending on the player, maybe. But for me, I really like it. Loop 2 is due to the scoring mechanics changes and the revenge bullets. It just the routes are just completely different from Loop 1. They play nothing alike, so it's like just a completely different game, pretty much. And Omote and Ura have quite different routes for scoring as well. So it's like 2.5 games.
I know, it's crazy. What do you think of the loops, Jaimers?
Yeah, basically the same. But I like that they're like completely different from the first loop, and like how you approach it, and like how different like the route is and the scoring as well. It's very different from like other games where like the only difference is like just suicide bullets, I guess.
Right. A lot of cave games have like some minor scoring differences, but not usually in the way that this game has it. Because like Dodonpachi
Yes.
and have like the extended chain timer, which allows
Mhm.
for more possibilities of that chain.
Yeah, it's great when there are like big differences between the loops to like set them apart.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, do you guys have any insights on what might have inspired Cave to even do this in the first place? Because it seems, I mean, it's awesome, but it seems like one of those things Cave does that's like, Cave, this is badass, but why did you make two separate loops for the
Mm.
game? I can't even figure why they might have done that, but it is really cool. So I was wondering if there's any particular reasons that could maybe stand out to you two as to why they made the emote and then the aura loop and their distinctive separate loops from one another.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think doing like location tests or something, players were like clearing the game like too easily, so they added like requirements. I think.
Oh, so do you think maybe it was to separate out to accommodate basically, so they made the first loop for the beginners and the regular players, the emote loop for like the mid-tier ish skilled players
Yeah.
who would typically be able to get into the second loop of stuff like Dodonpachi, but they're not amazing players like myself. And then the aura loop for like the badass super players are like, emote is just too freaking easy. Give me more. And so they made him aura.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works out, at least. Who knows what the
Yeah.
intention was, but yeah.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Maybe we should talk about our thoughts on the actual loop requirements themselves now.
Yes.
You might
I
have
have a
been
lot
meaning
of
to,
thoughts
but-
on that. So go ahead, Moglar. What are your thoughts?
So for first loop entries, I think they're very cool challenges for like the first loop entries. It's another goal to overcome, which I found very fun. When it gets to like Euro looping a lot, that's when things get like it's very punishing, which can be very brutal at times. But it also it makes it very stressful, like in late loop one, and satisfying. And if you loop it, it feels really good.
When you were going for your Ura, like you're doing all your Ura runs and everything, did you find that no miss, no bomb loop requirement, even later on when you're getting these massive scores, was grinding your teeth, or were you so were you just so damn good? You're like, how many of those runs would you lose to that damn requirement?
It gets brutal sometimes. It gets brutal. When I
Oh,
started,
jeez.
yeah, I find that a lot often I'm too like focused on like getting like better loop one scores and stuff. If I focus on just playing well in general, I can often actually loop pretty regularly. Like a week back, I had a day where I filled out the entire scoreboard with 500 mil or 520 mil plus runs even, which that being like it shows like the top 5 scores for like the day or whatever, right?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I did
Crazy.
I did like 3. I got like 3 runs pretty quickly because I was just focusing on playing well and getting runs deep, and then I was like, well, it'd be cool to fill out the scoreboard at least once. It'd be a cool thing to do once. And then I played a couple more hours, and yeah, I got 520 mil plus runs.
The Japanese players are like, what the hell is going on? Who is this kid?
The thing is, if I loop, I'm pretty much guaranteed to get 500 mil at this point because of my scoring routes.
So what are your thoughts on the loop requirements, Jaimers?
Yeah, it's kind of like the same. Yeah, they're like pretty cool for like the challenge aspect of it. And it's like but it's really punishing. It is pretty much not ever been done before. I think before and after anymore, except for in Bocce, I guess. But it's pretty out there. It's pretty unique. I think it's pretty cool at least. But if you try to do like scoring and stuff, it can. I can get that it gets
sometimes.
pretty frustrating sometimes. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like doing like Do and Lonen, I guess, as like a challenge.
It is. That's what I was about to say. It's like the Toho players like, what's the problem? No miss, no bomb. Like that's what we do. As a Dodonpachi player too, it kind of makes sense to me a little bit because if you no miss, no bomb, like you have to no miss, no bomb the first loop in Dodonpachi if you want a good score. So it almost feels like they wanted to just slap the player around a little bit. You know, they were like, okay, we just need to add a little bit more of a slap in the face for the players, just to make, like you're saying, just to make those aura runs insane. Because how much did you struggle with that when you're going for your aura clear, Jaimers? Like, how many runs were you losing to that loop requirement?
Yeah, it's kind of weird thing because I think it took me like three attempts into the Ura loop to actually clear the Ura loop. But the amount of times I felt like the first loop was like exponentially more.
Right.
So in that sense, can get say that like the first loop is like harder than the second. If we just want to like get the clear.
One really brutal thing as well is like they happen to put this loop requirement in a game that has like such a aggressive scoring and like dangerous strategies for high scoring play. It's like, oh
right,
my God, dude.
yeah,
Jesus, like it's like looping with like 290 mil routes is completely different compared to just getting like the 120 mil or something. It's way harder.
right.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Like, for example, I did imagine, this is kind of funny. I did manage to get into Emote, so I did manage to get the Emote loop. And the way I did it was actually kind of funny, where I decided I was going to I turned off my bomb button and said, all right, I'm just going to play and never bomb. And then, whatever happens, that I think this is my best chance to get into the Emote loop. And I did. That was like the only times I've ever gotten into the Emote loop have been when I turned off my bomb button, because otherwise I keep losing track of how many. Well, because what happens is I'll be going for survival and I'll say, all right, I better bomb here. It's better than dying, right? But then I kind of, that little snowballs, and then you end up dying, and then you end up bombing too much, and then you miss the loop. So I think the requirement, at least for Emote, is a lot of fun. Aura sounds like a nightmare, though.
Yeah. You probably want to start bombing more of those. You get to Omote more because you really need those lives.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I know. For instance, I've had clears where I've only lost a life or two, but I didn't loop because I bombed too much. And then the only time I looped was I got absolutely wrecked, but I never bombed. So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the M2 port keeps track of like how many mistakes you've made for like the Ura entry.
Yeah, too bad I play rotated, so the gadgets, I don't see those gadgets. I see some of them, but they're not. That one's not on there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the amount of lives you get is equal to the amount of mistakes you can make.
Yeah.
So if you do like a no bomb one, you like automatically always.
That's right.
Always enter the loop.
I know because I looped on literally the last extend. I had no more extends, so
Nice.
I tested that. That is true.
Also get like it's close to how much you get for like a no miss loop one with the amount of bombs, but you'd get one extra for that. One extra bomb that you wouldn't be able to use.
What's cool about Ketsui, and I think it's kind of interesting, is how generous the game is with extends and bombs compared to its cave peers. It's just throwing extends and bombs at you.
So I'm gonna kind of have to disagree with this. If you look at a lot of cave games, I think Ketsui actually has like a pretty average amount of resources. Actually, like it looks like it has more than most games because like, oh shit, you get 2 extra lives per loop. You get 8 lives. That's 2 more than usual. But then like in Dodonpachi games, you get way more bombs. Or that not in Diojo, but you do have the hypers in Diojo. But in like Dodonpachi 1, you get so many bombs. Like the resources in general are pretty similar, I think. And then like one loop cave games, even like I'll often have like one extend or something. But there's like Escaluda where you have Kakse, which helps a lot. There's Guanga, which has like a lot of.
Galuda is ridiculous.
Guanga has a lot of different health items. Esperade has like the bomb refilling. So there's like, I think Ketsui is pretty average overall. It just seems has more resources than usual, but it's not really. Progear, yeah, I was about to mention that too. Yeah, you can have 10 lives for Loop 2 and Progear, so that game probably has like slightly more resources that you can have.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's true. I'm
your
thinking
bombs
of it
do
in comparison
though,
to definitely to stuff like Dodonpachi and to DOJ. But like you're saying, DOJ gives you hypers, and those are really useful. Yeah. And then Dodonpachi, it does give you a crap load of bombs.
It
That's
does.
for sure. I don't tend to use them, so I kind of forget about them.
You get more bombs in the stages, I think. Maybe that's actually not true, but I think that might be true. And you get like 3 or 6 bombs per life after 3 deaths,
Yes.
and then you have 3 more deaths after that. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, there are definitely more bomb drops in Dodonpachi.
Like,
There are like
Dodonpachi,
two per stage in Stage 4.
Dodonpachi probably has more resources. It probably has more resources than Ketsui, even considering the bombs.
I guess for
like a
me,
bit.
the divider is the extends. Maybe that's why it stands out to me so much. It's
Yeah.
just the extends amount is. It seems like holy crap. The game's just throwing extends at me.
It's just it's very it tricks you into
Yes.
thinking as more unusual, but yeah, not really.
Especially since I learned this when I was doing my no bomb runs. Is Ketsui? I don't know at your stage of skill, Moglar, or not, but for me, it feels like Ketsui chain deaths are a real danger in that game because when I would die, I felt like, okay, if I didn't bomb on respawn, I was just gonna get killed again.
I'm not sure if I've experienced that as much.
You get behind on like your enemy killing, and then it's more easily to get like overwhelmed.
Exactly. That felt like in Ketsui that can crop up in certain places. Like for example, there's certain times where you die during the reverse elevator or whatever you want to call it. And if you die like really early into that, you feel like, all right, I need to like bomb on respawn here. Otherwise, you're in a real shitty situation.
If you take advantage of your iframes, you should be able to recover most of the time. I think you probably just need to die more and get more used to recovering.
Sure. Yeah. What do you think, Jaimers? Have you ever run into that, or is there just more of a learning curve to it?
It kind of depends on like where you die. Because if you die like in a really like hectic section where you have to like kill enemies like very quickly, can get really dicey when you respawn. Especially in like
there can be times. Yeah.
Especially in the second loop, that's definitely like
the
case, I think. Yeah.
I don't want to imagine in like Aura Loop or whatever.
Yeah, then you just have to basically like if you have like a very strong enemy, you basically have to like bomb, I think, to like get back on track.
Yes, exactly. That's how I felt, and I didn't have my bomb button on, so it was just like, oh shit. This is like, I'm not saying it's impossible or anything. I'm not saying it's like Gradius or whatever where you just die and you're like, oh shit. It's not like that bad. It just felt like in comparison to something like Dononpachi or whatever, felt a little bit trickier to recover in certain sections than I was normally used to.
Maybe. I don't know. I think most big enemies though, I think if you just like get really aggressive, get your lock onto them instantly, you should hopefully be fine. But there can definitely be times, I'm sure, where you just kind of have to drop a bomb afterwards, which isn't too bad. If you're going for the Omote loop requirements, I guess that's probably the time where it would be the most annoying to have to like bomb to get on track, because like that's actually a huge deal. Yeah. Elsewise, aside from that though, it's not that bad.
So this topic is a little bit more in-depth than probably is typical, but I wanted to talk about this because I really wanted to get your guys' insights on this, which is, so Moglar recently has the highest recorded score on the PS4 version. Yeah. And in my book, I would consider that a world record, especially since how fantastic the PS4 port and how active it is. I mean, it's not like these players aren't on the PS4 port. But I do know, as far as like official Japanese JHA world record tracking, they require you to show up in Japan and play on the cabinet and, have the guy verify it there. But it seems like with the shifting nature of the world, especially the shifting nature of what's happening in Japan and their troubles with the arcades, it just doesn't seem like this model is going to hold up for much longer. And so I just want to get your guys' thoughts on, like, in my book, I would consider Moglar's score a world record, whether or not JHA agrees. But what do you guys think as far as the world record tracking? Like, what do you guys consider a world record? Do you guys think JHA is still the standard, or do you think it's time to move on from that?
No, I don't think JHA is like a definitive world record thing anyway. It's just like a Japan record thing, which just happens to line up with the world record like 99% of the time. But
right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It
doesn't track world records. Just it's in the name. It's like Japanese high score thing.
Yeah, it's a Japanese thing. But well, it happens that most of the time it's correct for world records, but
Yeah, so what do you guys think is sort of the best way or like a really solid way to track world records right now? Because this is always something to me that it's been an interesting topic. On something like the Ketsui Destiny port by M2, it's so well made and it's so well regulated, and it seems like a very solid foundation to say, okay, this is a legit world record because it's on the official port, on the official leaderboards. They're well maintained. Everything's legit. What do you guys think as far as like the standards of what would make something a world record or not?
I think world records have always been like kind of like a community thing, I guess.
Yes.
Especially if you look at like speedruns and stuff, it's always like a community thing where they like set up their own rule sets and then they track that on their own leaderboards and like people stream and stuff. With this game, it might be a bit more official because they're kind of like built for score play, so it gets like a bit trickier when you look at like that.
Problem would be like if a version that someone plays on is like too inaccurate and like in a helpful way, I'd say. I think if someone breaks a world record score and they're playing on like a harder version, basically, like just whatever, just call it the world record, man. If they have an advantage, then.
I remember this actually popped up with Battle Garega and the gadgets, the rank gadgets in Battle Garega on the PS4 port, where it's like, what do we do here with this? I made a whole video about it. No one really watched it because it's so esoteric.
You can just turn that off. I mean, if you're going for a serious score, at least you can turn it off. I think if you're not going for a very serious score, I don't think anyone would really care that much. But
yeah, that seemed to be the consensus, where it's like, if you want a world record score, basically, turn off the gadget, the rank gadget, because it does give you a lot of helpful advice, as well as the boss HP gadget, maybe. You do that, though, it's considered legit in most players' eyes, and I would agree there. Like, I don't think you need to actually fly out to Japan and play on the Japanese JHA cabinets and everything to say it's the world record. Otherwise, that's one hell of a requirement.
I don't know how many people would say you would have to do that, though. Yeah.
It's always been an interesting topic of discussion. When I have Plasma on, we'll talk more specifically about that, since he tracks all the world records and everything.
Plasma did do that for Donpachi.
Yes, he did. He flew out there. Prometheus doesn't have a world record, but he also did that. He also flew out to Japan and played on the Japanese cabinets and everything for Dodonpachi. To some degree, I don't know about his highest score or anything, but
no, it's not his highest score. It was probably just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he was a stick player in the first place.
Yeah, he was keyboard. He still got a pretty good. I think he got like 2 bill or something on.
Yeah, he was cooking.
Yes, yeah, actually. Yeah.
Well, Jaimers, not being a stick player, didn't you clear Dodonpachi on got a 2-all on a cabinet at like Stunfest or something?
When you can.
Yeah, I've cleared it a bunch of times on cabinets, both on the Stunfest and the Spain event back then. That's now the new Mikado arcade. So yeah, I can play on stick, just not as like efficiently, I guess, as on pad.
You can 640.
I can't use my full power.
Yes,
on the stick.
You can't go full Jaimers.
Yeah. If you can 640 mil on a pad, then you can probably 2-all on stick fine. You got some pretty good scores though on stick too, I think, though, right? Did you not get like a 400 mil maybe? It's pretty decent. Or maybe I'm wrong about that.
I did a couple of clears with the stick, but I don't remember how high the scores were.
I think it's 300 mil at least. But...
Yeah, probably something like that.
Must have been at least 300 mil though, so
yeah,
that wouldn't be very surprising. But...
I need like a lot more practice, I think, to really use the stick efficiently.
Being the nerd that I am, I think it would be fun. You did the install on the cabinet like they did. So Tekken 5, they had these cabinets that had controller slots, so you could put PS2 pads in them. And I would be able to do that myself. So I think it'd be fun if you had a cabinet, Jaimers, but then you modded it so you could use your Saturn pad on it. That would be pretty badass.
It would be pretty amazing, yeah.
It is very doable. It's very doable.
You have like also these cabinets that have like a keyboard installed, I think.
Right, yeah, fun. Like the Toho cabinet or whatever.
Yeah, typing of the dead cabinet has like keyboards on it.
So the last
Maybe use
section
that
of
for
this
other
podcast,
games.
I definitely want to talk about Moglar's world record journey because it's one of the few world record journeys you could actually track as far as when he starts playing and when he gets his world record, which is super cool. So, Moglar, do you remember when exactly you started playing Ketsui for score? Like you're like, okay, let's start getting scores in the game.
I think the first time I ever played the game was like late 2000, very late 2017, like maybe in October or November. I think that was the first time I ever played the game, or maybe it was a bit earlier and I started playing the game a little more after that. I don't know. Yeah, I started playing for the first time about then. I was going for score pretty much from the get-go though.
Okay, so you begin late 2017,
Yeah,
and then I
a little
remember
bit.
from there, were you playing a lot of Ketsui all the time, or were you still in that early phase where you're jumping from all these different
Nah.
shmups, or were you just like, let's do this?
I was jumping a bit. I got like I've ended up getting like more dedicated to Ketsui, I guess, like on its own in like the second half of 2018.
Do you remember how long it took you to get your very first 1-all?
I don't know. I don't think I was playing too actively in this time, but I think I got in like I think it was February actually of 2018, like very early, I think, or maybe it was March. I think it was February though. So I guess I was playing an okay amount back then. I think I might have had like, for some reason, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think the number I kind of remember in my mind is like 70 hours or something.
Was it the
Okay.
first shmup you played?
No, I was not very good at the time though. I had like the Toho normal 1cc's, and I had like a couple hard ones, like PCB and IN, which are like a couple of easier ones.
Mm.
So I was not too good at that time. So I was still fairly beginner.
Do you remember after you got your 1-all, what your thought was as far as what your attitude towards Ketsui was at that time? Because I remember when I got my first 1-all in DDP, I was like, journey over. You know, like I'm never playing this game again. I did it. You know, I'm never going to get a 2-all, so I'll just leave it here. Then a few months later, I came back. But do you know what your initial thought was when you got the 1-all? Were you like, okay, new game, or did you decide then, okay, let's keep going?
No, I wanted to. I think I was gonna play the game more in the future, but I think I took a break from it at that point after I went off. I played Crimson Clover for a couple months after that, and also some Diojo, I think, which I did not get very far in. Diojo has a very high skill floor for scoring, so my score was terrible. I played that for like 100 hours and didn't even get in Black Label and didn't even get 200 mil. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, that's how Dodonpachi goes with the shadings and all that sort of stuff.
I also got to like 2-3 though, which was like kind of okay.
So then how did you, or when or how did you decide to come back to Ketsui? Like what was the inspiration for that?
I think I just wanted to play the game more, I guess. I mean, it's been a while. I guess I had more interest in playing the game. I was like, okay, I'll start playing it again. I don't know.
Do you know when you decided to go for the emote?
I think I probably got to Omote for the first time in like late-ish 2018, somewhat late-ish, not like super late. I don't know when I would have started going for it. It wouldn't have been like after my first 1-all. I would have been just trying to like get some more score and get some more consistency, I guess. But yeah. But after like a month or so of that, or like a couple of weeks, maybe I would have been like, all right, maybe I can start like thinking about looping.
So I remember when I talked to you, I'm looking up the date here. So I talked to you in July of 2019 on our first podcast episode, and at the time, your PB was about 400 million in emote. So you were cooking along at that point. There must have been something must have kicked in gear between 2018, summer of 2018 and summer of 2019.
I was just playing the game very actively during that time, or pretty actively at least. I think I might have been the most active in like last year, but I was pretty active throughout that time as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember you showing me like your No Miss Doom clear and everything. I was like, whoa, this kid's good.
I showed a No Miss No Bomb Doom for what was it? First shmup slam.
That's
One where you
right.
could send in replays.
Yes, the OG, the first incarnation where I was like, okay, no one's actually going to sign up for this, so I'm going to have to run around and beg people to send things to it. And I remember I got yours, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Thought it'd be kind of cool to show off No Miss No Bomb Doom, even though it's kind of luck shit. I mean, it still requires a lot of skill because you need to get to the final a lot of times. And yeah, you have to have some skill with dodging the final, but it's a lot of luck.
Yeah, that was a really fun replay. And I remember that was the first time thinking like, oh, that's good. Because I hadn't really seen you around too much before. And I remember KZ actually messaged me, and KZ said, hey, do you know about Moglar? I was like, oh, no. Who's that? He's like, he's this, player, and he's doing really good in Ketsui right now. And then I saw your scores. I was like, whoa, this guy's kicking ass. So yeah, you came in hot as far as taking out Ketsui really early even.
Yeah. I think I long term release. Obviously at the start my improvement was slow because I was new to the genre, but I think for a new player to the genre I improved fairly quickly, probably more quickly than a lot of people would.
Absolutely. It always seems like the players that end up getting these massive scores also seem to demonstrate like really high skills early on as well. Unfortunately for me, like I would love to see the story of like someone like myself who was like average-ish gameplay, and then all of a sudden it's like bam, really good. But I've never seen that actually occur. But yeah, so that's awesome. And then following along, I remember this blew my mind. So I knew you were playing for your mote, you're doing great, and then December of that year, you got your first aura clear, which was crazy. How quickly that came about. It felt like. So what was that like, going from Emote to Aura?
So, well, maybe it looked like quick, but so after I got my first Omote 2 all, I was like, okay, maybe I should try Ura now. I played like a pretty good amount of Ura, for like, I don't know how long I stuck with it. At least a couple of weeks, maybe a month even. Probably not a month back then, but a couple of weeks. Probably played Ura, and I was like, this is way too hard right now.
Right.
I'm just gonna go play Omote more. I'm just gonna get 400 mil Omote first, and then I'll come back to Ura. So that's what I did. After I got the 400 mil Omote, yeah, I practiced Ura again for a couple more weeks, and I managed to clear the loop for the first time. And I practiced it more and did more full runs, and eventually I got to clear. It took a fair amount of grinding, but.
And I remember the very first time I played Aura. The thing about it is when you watch really high-skilled replays of Aura, like just watching them, it doesn't look all that different from Emote when you just kind of look at them.
It's way
and
harder.
then you play it, and you're like, oh my god, this is brutal.
Way harder.
Were you shocked the first time you played Aura?
I don't really remember, but it probably was. Yeah, I think the difficulty was above my expectations. I don't know if there was any moment of like shock exactly, but like it was definitely above what I was expecting, and that's why I ran back off to Omote for 400 mil before trying again.
And then after that, so you got your Aura clear December. I'm going off your YouTube uploads. I'm sure these don't exactly align, but it's probably in the ballpark, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
December 2019, you got your Aura clear. And then in April of 2020, you ended up getting your first over 500 mil score, which put you in, as Plasmo calls it, like the 500 mil club. There's actually a 700 mil club in Dodonpachi as well, which is really impressive. And I remember, I think it was either myself. Well, it was both myself. I don't know if Plasma did, but we put up this bounty before you did it, basically saying if a Western player gets into this club, we'll send them some money. And both of us expected you'd get in there, and then you get in there, and little did we know the biggest challenge would be trying to get you to accept the money.
Yeah, I have not accepted money.
Moglar has not accepted the money yet.
I still don't have PayPal account or anything, so because I don't really need it for anything. But yeah, for 500 mil, it did. 500 mil happened really quickly. It was quite surprising. I did. I already had very high scoring at that point. Like my first Ura 2-all was 441 mil, and it had a 2-1 death, which was pretty bad. I was expecting it 450 mil for my first clear even, which didn't happen because a bad death spot. But I think the 511 mil was also kind of a lucky run for then. It was definitely above what I was expecting to potentially get at that time.
Just all the elements came together.
And the same thing happened again for like a 550 mil, though. Not so much for world record, in my opinion, though. But
right. Well, the thing is that, to put context for everyone listening, so when Moglar gets his 511 million, at the time, the world record was by SPS at 583 million in 2014. He set that in 2014. And so, from what I understand, just talking to Plasmo and talking to other players, when it comes to getting these really, really high scores, it's like that final stretch that's actually incredibly difficult. Much more, like the numbers are a little bit deceiving. Like the jump between, for example, like a 300 mil and a 400 mil is way easier than jumping from 511 to 580 or something like that, from what I understand. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say it's like a small number jump even. It's a pretty large percentage of the score, really. But yeah, I mean, I think I've like pretty much like doubled my playtime since I got my 500 mil. So yeah,
right there you go.
And you know, I was a scrub when I started, so if I wasn't a scrub when I started, I might have got past the beginning parts or quicker, and the later parts might have been even larger percentage
right,
of the time.
Exactly.
Although I'm not entirely sure on that, but it's an idea.
So, what were you thinking at this stage? Because for a lot of players, definitely myself included, you know, when you get into those higher tier scores and you're kind of like in the cool kids club, like, oh man, I've got a massive score. That'll do. You know, I don't really need to try and attack the world record score. What was sort of running through your mind as far as giving you inspiration to continue even in the face of such a massive score?
Firstly, after getting 511 mil, I was like, a big goal of mine was getting 540 mil, for a couple of reasons, because SPS's the top leaderboard score on PS4 was 537. So being that, I could get 540. There are like 3 players, 4 now even, that had scores like right around that point. And I think I just liked the number. I think that was the last reason, which is a silly reason. But
it just looks way cooler than 511.
Yeah,
You're like,
I was like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, at that point. So that's was a really big goal of mine that I wanted to do. And like I was thinking even at that time, I was like, well, once I get past 540 mil, then that's like probably not really half of the jump in reality, but it's half of the score jump to the world record even. Then there's the world record, and there's 600 million. There's also like getting around like GAN and RS's score could have been a cool goal. So there's like all that stuff there, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably end up there eventually.
So it sounds like you're just setting these goals ahead that seem, you know, they're hard but achievable. So you're like, okay, 511, let's get to 540. Then you're like, let's get to the next step, and then you're just creeping slowly towards that world record.
Yeah, I just like spammed goals pretty much. Goals all over the place. But there's like a it was good with this game because there's like a lot of different goals you could make. You could make like getting this much score in loop 1, or like amount of score with your ILPVs in loop 1. I could get like go for like a 3 miss, or I could try to go for an omote PV. Like there's just a lot to do in this game.
Right.
Which I think really probably helped keep it engaging for me all the way through.
That's exactly what my next question was going to be, was
Oh, really?
how did you stay loyal to Ketsui?
Yeah.
Because with all these other shmups, like most people, it would be hard to continue with the same game, especially since you're already, so great at it and have these massive scores that all of us would respect. The fact that you're continue going is pretty incredible.
Yeah, there's just like I said, there's just a lot to do, and the game is like people often say that like, oh, shmups, it must be so boring. You're just playing the same game over and over again, right? But like your routes change and stuff. The game changes because your routes change. It's not like you can't really compare like some normal like survival 1-all to like high scoring loop, like even like mid scoring loop 1 routes versus like super high scoring loop 1 routes. It's all like very different feel, very
Yes.
different play. Lots of interesting things you have to do to bump yourself up to those points. There's like improving scoring, improving survival to get more score. There's just too much, and also with like the game changing, there's like, oh well, now I can go play the omote loop. I've gotten this far, and then the loop, and then some higher scoring routes in some higher scoring routes in omote. It's just it's always changing. There's always a lot to do, lots of goals. It's very much. It's not. It doesn't feel like, at least for most of the journey, it doesn't feel nearly as repetitive, or at least for me, it didn't feel nearly as repetitive as people would like make it out to seem.
Yes.
Like, people would make it out to seem like, oh, it's the most repetitive thing you could possibly do, but not really. I don't think it's like.
I definitely agree there, and people really misunderstand that aspect of the genre.
Yeah, it's definitely not as I think a lot of things are probably like it's probably pretty average in repetitiveness, whereas most people would probably think it's the most repetitive thing in the world.
Yeah, it helps if you really like the game.
That too, yeah. I do really, really like the game.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about your grind in Dodonpachi, for example, Jaimers. What kept you going with that as far as getting your score in Dodonpachi? Because that game especially absolutely breaks the heart and mind of the player.
I just like set my goal at like 600 million, like no miss, no bomb, to 2-6 boss. That was just my initial goal, and I just kind of wanted to do that till I got it, and then I got it, and I like the game enough to do that. I don't think I like the game enough to do more than that, but that's basically like how it is. Yeah,
I can definitely say what you're talking about. Well, there's something I want to ask you, Moglar, because I think I can kind of maybe relate to what you're saying, though not in such spectacular fashion. But for instance, even though Dodonpachi is a game that I have a sort of a love and hate relationship with, the thing about it is I don't think I could just move on with my life, because I feel like there's more that I need to do in the game before I can just go play other things. And it almost sounded like, when you're describing it, like maybe when you're playing Ketui, it felt like you always had like this sense like, okay, there's more I need to do before I just move on. Was it like that, or am I just projecting?
I'm not sure I felt that way too much back then. It was just like there's more like there was more to do, but it was not like I have to do it from back then. But now at this point, I'm kind of feeling a bit of obligation at this point to get a good score, honestly. Yeah, because like at this point, like I've reached this point, like you need to set a good score, I think.
Especially since you're like right next to 600 mil, I could see that being like, oh shit, okay, I have to. I mean, I'm right there. I got to keep going.
Yeah, but I have to. What I want to, at the very least, I want to get like one no miss run eventually, because no miss is a very massive score game.
Whoa! Like the whole game?
Yeah.
Doom and all?
I mean, my world record run was on pace for it until the final bosses, but then I kind of I got one nasty pattern early in the stage 5 boss. I probably could have dodged it, but then I was just like, maybe I should just get the one miss.
That would be imagine a 600 mil no miss aura clear. That is something, legends are made of. That would be
So
crazy.
compared to dying once on the final bosses, which is like standard, I guess, like standard like a Doom final death, it gives like 25 million. So it's a huge deal. I can't really lose the game off with that 25 mil right there, and I'm capable of it. So
Well, that would be, that would be one hell of a replay to watch. That's for sure. And I also wanted to ask you, Jaimers, as far as, do you have any plans to play Ketsui much in the future? I mean, you have amazing scores and everything in the game as well. Does the game call to you at all? Or are you just kind of like, I'm good there?
I don't know, maybe sometime at a later point I'd like to go back to it, but I'm not sure. I do like the game a lot, so
Well, one thing, maybe I can sell both of you on this idea. Maybe is one thing I've noticed is that in the score play categories of Ketsui, Tiger gets a lot of love, and for good reason, because Tiger is a freaking awesome ship, and I love it too. But its brother Panzer, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to have as much scoring activity. And I was wondering, maybe Panzer's like, hey, maybe Panzer needs some love.
Yeah, I might play Panzer in the future. I'm interested in it. Seems fun.
I really like playing Panzer a lot. I have a lot of fun playing it.
I think Panzer is a bit harder to clear the game with than Tiger. I never really liked like how slow the lock on was.
That is
It was
true.
it's a bit not as satisfying as playing with the other one.
What do you think the strongest appeal of Tiger is? Is it the combination of the lock-on speed and just the massive wide shot? Is that like what makes Tiger so popular?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to route the game, I think, with Tiger.
Because I will say the boss fights with Panzer are actually really fun because you're just booking around those bosses with the movement speed. It's actually really satisfying. But I could see the stages, especially. I don't know about the later loops, so this is where I could be completely off. But I have no idea what Panzer's second loop aura is going to be like.
Yeah, Panzer has a very big advantage against 2-3 boss.
Yeah,
He can do that boss without having to use a bomb on it, which is quite a big difference.
How is he able to do that? Like what particular pattern?
you can shoot you can shoot the middle of the boss with Panzer and kill the second phase very quickly. But there's also the blue wall pattern is pretty nasty for Tiger and Ura. You have to be very quick, and like if you get a weird pattern on it, like it might be way too tight to dodge.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't played Panzer enough. They like you said in the write-up you made. I think they seem fairly balanced, but maybe it's not as balanced as it seems. But I
think Tiger can make a lot more consistent routes. It's a lot more safe, I think.
Maybe.
But Panzer has to like move around a lot to like get all the enemies, and then you get like spread all the suicide bullets around, and you have to like dodge.
Yeah, I haven't played Loop 2 as much with Panzer, but
I would imagine though Panzer could point blank shit really fast since he can just get up on there. Maybe that might be an advantage.
Yeah, I think that the idea is to sort of make up for that with lock shot, being able to get up quicker. Yeah, if you get up quick, if you're really close to enemy, there's not too much of a difference between lock speed. So there's still a tiny bit, but it's not too bad.
I tested that.
Pretty much all my Loop 1 routes. Well, when I played Panzer, I didn't do some of the harder strats just because, like, maybe it won't work or maybe slightly different. It might mess it up. But
I just remember like dying on like the 2-5 mid boss because I wasn't locking onto the left hood fast enough.
Most of my routes seem to work fine with Panzer though. There's some downsides and upsides to it. There is one thing for Ura I know that Panzer it makes it pretty effortless to shot kill enemies for multiplier management, like large enemies, because you'll want to do that so you don't waste multiplier on shitty enemies. But yeah, it just feels very effortless with Panzer because you get full damage, like full shot damage with Panzer as long as like you're hitting the enemy pretty much. Because like I think they do like the same damage overall, but like Panzer's shot damage is more concentrated, right? Whereas Panzer or Tiger, you have to be up closer, which will usually make enemies survive like a little longer, and you have to put more effort into being close to them. So when I mess around with Panzer in Loop 2 like a little bit, I did notice that. That was one advantage. There's probably downsides too.
I was gonna say you're correct, because what's funny is if you play the Ketsui DS port, there's like a little segment in there or something where it talks about the ship types, and it says Panzer and Tiger. Tiger technically has more damage, but you need to hit it with literally all of your shot in order to do that damage. Whereas Panzer does more damage more often because you're hitting it with all your shots.
Well, if it says it does more, maybe it does, but I was under the assumption that it probably did like the same if you're point blank with both, but maybe not. Maybe it's slightly more with Tiger or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it said on the DS.
I just kind of remember like back in the day when I didn't route the game much yet. I thought that Panzer was like easier for the second loop than Tiger, because you have like more leeway, I guess. The bigger speed, you can like dodge things more easily on side read. In that sense, I thought like Panzer was like easier than Tiger. But once you route the game, then Tiger was a lot easier than Panzer.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm going to be playing Panzer in the Emote loop, so we'll see how that goes. Another question I had before we finish our talk about Ketsui and scoring and everything is, do you have any interest, now that you've got a big old Ura score, the world record in Ura, to target world record in Emote?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I probably will. It's pretty low effort at this point. I just need to like relearn all the routes and do some runs. It wouldn't take too long. Unless I just like end up having no motivation to do that or something, I'll probably do it at some point.
Yeah, that would be really cool to have both the Emote and the Ura world record.
There's a lot of room for improvement still on the Emote record as well. So I'd maybe go for like, at this point, I'd maybe go for like aim for like a 530 mil as like a Emote goal. The world record is 507 currently.
Oh wow! So that'd be a big jump.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would have to require like fairly good scoring. So I'd maybe have to get a few like successful no miss rounds, but no missing Emote shouldn't be like too crazy.
Right? There's no doom. You don't have to worry about doom at the end.
Well, there's no doom, and also the rest of the second loop is just way easier as well.
Right, very true.
But there is some score bombing going on actually, but the easier difficulties should make up for it.
Yeah, speaking of Doom, actually, Panzer is also like easier on Doom, I think. Just for the final pattern, I think.
I think
slightly
one thing
easier because of the speed.
Nice.
Yeah, one thing with Panzer, I think Panzer in general is probably like nice for bosses or mid bosses,
because feels that way.
You have like slightly more movement speed, right? Which on a lot of patterns can make macro dodging like feel way less tight, and
I feel like
you lose pretty much no precision because it's just such a slight speed boost, but it can matter for macro dodging. I think it's better.
Yeah, I feel like those lanes on like the Doom final
it's a minor.
are like the perfect speed for Panzer to like weave through. Yeah, when focused.
You gotta go for the no miss no bomb Panzer as well.
When I did some Doom practice with Panzer, I definitely know what you're saying, Jaimers, where it felt like definitely Panzer had some movement advantage on that boss as opposed to Tiger. Well, Moglar, now that you're like, just destroying Ketsui, are any other shmups catching your eye at all? And if so, which shmups?
Well, there's a lot of shmups that I might play in the future. I don't know entirely how far I'll go with all of them. I think the games of the most interest, though, are Pro Gear and Dragon Blaze.
Oh, nice. Dragon Blaze surprises me. I didn't know you were a fan of that.
I think most Psycho is pretty boring to me from what I've seen, but Dragon Blaze is really good. Because the Dragon shot system with its scoring is like really aggressive and fun. And that seems really difficult to optimize.
The second loop is basically Ura loop, but without bullet ceiling.
Also, I haven't played too much Psycho, but the patterns seem fairly fun for Psycho games. Also, when I'm motivated by like a good scoring system, I find it easier to actually like get myself to learn the patterns, because you really need to learn those Psycho patterns. I don't really want to do it if it's boring scoring.
Right. So no Sengoku Blade, basically. That
No.
game looks crazy.
Or most Psychic
Yeah,
Runner. There's also Space Bomber, which has some more involved scoring as well. I'm interested in that game. It seems fun. I wish they did more involved scoring. That's not just like the coin timing thing or medal timing thing like every time. Because Dragon Blaze and Space Bomber are both really cool.
Jaimers, do you have any particular scoring goals or games in mind that you are looking into playing for score right now?
Not sure actually. I might look into Ryojo at some point.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that'd be
Now
cool.
we're talking.
I think that's probably like the best game out there to learn for score, I think.
That
Probably
would
the most
be awesome.
rewarding.
Jaimers plus DOJ, that would you got DDP, now you're going after DOJ. It makes sense. It makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Would you be playing
Oh,
white
yeah.
label or black label?
I do want to clear white label at some point. So maybe
Yes.
that's first. just clear white label and then do like scoring on black label. Probably what the best thing you can do.
I'd probably do the same.
White label
Might do the same even.
White label's cool. It feels, I kind of have a partiality towards white label, though. Like, I have the exact same opinion. I wouldn't want to play it for score, though. I think I'd go with black label for scoring, but playing white label for survival seems really fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool clear to have.
Especially since it feels a little bit more Dodonpachi like to me than black label does. Like the lack of hypers and all that sort of stuff.
You still get quite a lot of hypers in white label.
What about the hitbox? Isn't hitbox more similar to DDP?
Yes.
Yeah, that's bigger,
White label, it's probably the worst thing about white label for me. I've not played white label much, but when I played it, oh my god. In black label, it's like you fail to die. You just go through a wall of bullets and it's like, okay, that was unexpected. And then in white label, for me, because I've mostly played black label, it's the opposite, where I get hit when I'm completely not expecting it, and it's really annoying.
A great example of that is that one.
Well, it's mostly happening in practice. I think in full runs, I'd probably be more attentive to make sure it wouldn't happen, hopefully, but in practices, I was messing around like 2-3, and it was happening all the time. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, a great example of that on white label versus black label with the hitboxes is that one boss in stage 5 where it drops the bombs and you have to like go in between the bombs. On black label, it's like not an issue. I don't know if I've died to that part in a run, like in a serious run on black label ever. But on white label, it's scary as shit because it's like you're way tighter squeezed to get in there. And I have died to that a few times on white label.
I can see that.
Also, the final boss in black label, like the stage 5 boss in black label, you can get away with some real squeaky dodges in that. And then in white label, it's much scarier.
Yeah, black label you can just like sit still for a washing machine. Just wiggle a bit and then you're probably fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't work in white label.
White label, you just die on the washing machine.
Yeah, it's completely undodgeable in white label.
Well, I'm really looking forward to see Jaimers playing some DOJ. That would make my day because I'd love to see that.
In black label, you just wiggle in like a specific way, and like a lot of the time you can survive just by doing that without really reading much at all. You just wiggle like this wiggle in the specific rhythm, and it's like it lasted quite a while there.
Any ideas on what ship type you'll play, Jaimers? Will you play type B or type A?
BL. Yes, actually.
I don't know. Probably a BX. Maybe.
I like both ship types in DOJ quite a bit. I actually like playing them both. It's one of the few shmups where I feel like I can play almost fairly equivalently across both the ships. Probably am still a little bit better with type B over type A, but not a whole lot. So I was curious which one you would play. Probably type B, I'm guessing, since that's a little bit more like CL than type A. But
yeah, probably BX if I had to choose.
Oh yeah, expert for sure. Like playing the other subtypes in DOJ is always kind of funny.
B, I've not routed too much of Loop 2, but like playing B makes Loop 2 so much easier.
Oh yeah.
For my unrouted play, but if you just route it, like that issue is probably gonna go away. So.
Yeah, type B also, I don't get why they abandoned that ship style because I think it's super cool. I know the chopper's awesome, so I know they brought back the choppers, but I do actually like the design of the Type B ship in DOJ quite a bit. It's like I don't know, it looks like a submarine type ship, like a ship you'd fly above the water or something. It's really cool.
I think A looks really cool. Not sure if I think B looks too cool personally.
I think they're both great looking ships. So, any final thoughts before we end the episode?
Yeah, I just want to like congratulate Moglar again because doing that
Absolutely.
absolutely
Thank you.
insane score, insanely unprecedented.
I know.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you first saw that he broke
Hmm.
the world record? Were you shocked? Were you like, I saw it coming?
I saw it coming. Yeah, it was going to happen eventually. From how well he was doing and how crazy he was, how dedicated he was. Yeah, that's exactly crazy. Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts, Moglar?
I don't know. Play Ketsui, play Pro Gear, play Dragon Blast.
Oh, actually, there's one last topic I want to quickly go over. I
Oh,
forgot it.
okay.
So one last topic. Do you think that the quality of the PS4 port, having that particular port, was a huge boost to your like engagement with the game? Like, would you have dedicated this much time and effort into the game had it been on MAME or emulation, or was the fact that it had the online leaderboards and the online replays and all that stuff, was that a big factor for you?
Yeah, I didn't look at the replays too. The leaderboards are fun, but I didn't look at the replays too much because it was kind of a pain to watch them in a M2 port.
Yeah.
The fast forward, the replays is the worst part of the M2 port. I don't know what they're doing with that, but aside from them automatically saving and all that stuff. But yeah, it's very possible. Like I think especially the big thing, which I don't use it anymore, at least in runs, because I want to feel more legit. But for a long time, I think the fixed multiplier counter, like the gadget for the multiplier counter, where you can look at the side and see what your actual multiplier is at any time. Because the normal multiplier in game, the larger one, it just counts up and up and up, and like you never know what you're actually at.
Right.
And especially for like IL grinding, individual level grinding, trying to like improve my scoring, like it was super satisfying being able to see what the actual number was and like keep like bumping it up over time and seeing when I'm doing well. It just feels really good. Don't use it much anymore, but yeah, that was possibly a big thing keeping me engaged through it long term.
Yeah, and I had the
Very,
same
very
experience
possible.
with the Garega port, where that rank graph going for my first clear of
Mhm.
Garega was insanely helpful. Like having that rank graph, I cannot tell you how useful that was for me with my routing and figuring out
Ye-
what to
I
do.
found the rank graph pretty interesting. Yeah, when I played Grega, but yeah, I noticed some things about rank because of the rank graph. Like I noticed when you get like a full bomb pickup instead of just like a fragment, you get a big boost in rank, or maybe it's not a huge boost, but there's a significant boost in rank when you actually fully fill up a bomb. So I was like, oh. Unless if I don't need to like stock up a lot of bombs, I should just try to stay under getting a full bomb. And there's other stuff. Oh, I also noticed the stage 3 boss milk. I was like, this is not that hard. I'm just gonna do the milk. Apparently, I noticed during some run that it boosts your rank a shitload. And I was like, well, okay, I guess that's why not everyone does this.
Yes.
Now I know. Now I won't use this. Yeah.
Yeah, I suspected the PS4 port of Ketsui Destiny is still criminally underrated by the world, but also just I think even shmup players kind of sleep on how great that port is and how useful it
Yeah.
is for learning the game and all the features. It's just a complete beast.
Yeah, and there's like it's got the best like mode selection as well. It's got like IKD Special and Destiny, both really good modes. It was the first one to have arcade challenge mode, which is really nice.
Yeah.
There's the mode that gives you like the save states of your death, which I used sometimes as well. That was kind of cool and fun.
Well, awesome. Thank you, you two, for joining the episode. This has been a really cool conversation. I'm really excited for people to hear all about Ketsui and Moglar's journey towards the world record, because I think more players, high skilled shmup players, need more recognition in the world, because it is kind of painful that you'll see all these videos for speedrunners or whoever, and it's like, okay, but I mean, come on. the amount of skill behind these scores and shmups is so insane. I do want more people to recognize it and enjoy it. So thanks so much for coming on the episode, you two.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
no
having me.
problem.
It was a really fun discussion.
Yeah, it's always fun to do these things. So, yep. Yeah, no problem at all. So,
Yeah, I really appreciate you two coming on. Adios, everyone.
bye.
See ya.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, Dingo, Another Joe, Anthony A, Aaron Iodice, Aaron Solis, Ben, Blur, STG, Borgie22, Brian Reboot, Brian Shiver, Chris Yuzufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Corey Mark, Daniel Savage, Darren Griffin, Delta Tango 6, Disco Stas Leia, DJ 420 Praise It, Dubs, Entropy, Eric H, FCK Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, Ilya, Kiwi, JLab, JB, RPG, Joe Angelo, John Kelly, Gameboy Guru, K, K2, Kiko Man 589, Larridge, Malays, Mark Toms, Maz, Megadeth, Minung, Mechalin, Mitch L.Y., Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, and Electron, Neon Dagger Games, Okla Kugels, Philip Mason, Portal 63, Radocat, Raul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Shane Sinsiensky, SLW, The Boot Rex, The Real Ikuzo, The Dirty Screech, The Old Bensta, TRM, Sugumo, Twilight EX, Plasmo, and Utakaya. Thanks for watching.